Hello, welcome to The Conversation, a podcast published by Geostrategic Forecasting Corporation. My name is Kris. I'm the chairman, and with me today is Dr. Vassilios Damiras, our Chief Executive Officer. Vassilios, how are you doing today?
I'm fine, thank you very much.
Good, good. Today on The Conversation, we're going to be discussing Bowe Bergdahl, who was released from the Taliban custody over the weekend and is currently in Germany being reintegrated into really being reintegrated into America. It's been 5 years since he has been back on American soil or been back with his troops. And 5 years during this time since mid 2009, he has been held captive by the Taliban and used basically as a propaganda tool in order to influence their goals, influence their ideologies, and achieve their goals. And just over the weekend, there was a prisoner swap of 5 detainees from Gitmo to be sent over to Qatar in exchange for Bergdahl. These 5 individuals are top Taliban leaders. Many of them are I would say about 3 out of 5 of them are top military commanders. One of them, possibly a war criminal who was in charge of killing Muslims in 2000, 2001 to help cement Taliban into a position of power in Afghanistan. And that is a very unique circumstance because it shows that the United States is willing to negotiate with the Taliban or any other group in an effort to bring back their people. And Vassilios, I wanted to get your take on this. First off, I want to get your reaction, what you thought of when you first heard about Bowe Bergdahl, Sergeant Bowe Bergdahl being released, particularly as part of a prisoner exchange.
Well, to bring back an American soldier is positive, but the thing is that kind of the prisoner swap that happened, and we have some serious questions about when that Sergeant Paul Bergdahl was in Afghanistan. His fellow soldiers said that he walked out from the base, and some people they say that he went AWOL and he wanted to join the Taliban, or the Taliban, sorry.
I understand though that there is uh, um, some information, some debate, if you will, about Bowe Bergdahl and I would guess, for lack of a better term, his resentment towards American involvement in Afghanistan, his resentment of being involved in the American military. And I understand that prior to his capture, he had sent an email out expressing his resentment. And there is obviously some debate into the circumstances of his capture. Some say that he walked off the base that he was working at. Some say that he was captured on patrol. Taliban says that he got drunk and walked off the base. But what's the reality? Do we know for sure how he was captured? I mean, it's been 5 years. I figured official information would have came to light regarding the circumstances of his capture.
I don't think so. We know the circumstances of his capture. We can find out. I don't think so. They are top secret. I don't know if the administration wants to find out. But the main thing now is that the release of these 5 top Al Qaeda members, and that they will go, that they will already have been released. And I'm sure, as other evidence indicate, that when you release people from Guantanamo, they go back and they do terrorist activities. These people, they were the top ones.
So you think that this sets a deadly precedent?
Yes, it's also a deadly precedent that now indicate that if they capture an American soldier, we are ready to release top people. They bring in parallel what Israel does sometimes. But Israel releases the rank and file. Sometimes I think they have released top PLO terrorists, But as you know, Israel later on they go and hand them down. I don't think so. United States wants to do that. In addition, now we have evidence that it was a plan to go to send the Navy SEALs in Pakistan to do the same operations as they did for Osama bin Laden to go and rescue him. But the Obama administration didn't want to do that for
It's
obvious reasons.
it's already fairly common knowledge that American hostages, in particular American hostages, are more valuable than any other uh, person of a different nationality. Now, if it's believed that this may cause a deadly precedent, which shows that various groups, whether it's Islamic groups, other rebel or separatist groups of different ideologies, can achieve their goals by simply taking an American hostage. Do you anticipate that the focus would shift from attacks uh, against American infrastructure, American targets and people, to simply hostage taking?
Yes, it can shift. Yes, I mean obviously they can see that they can get more from United States. Of course, that also depends with different administrations here. But yes, it's obviously they can shift. I
Because
mean,
one thing we have to take into account is that it's a 5-to-1 swap that which I'm sure part of the negotiation process took months, if not years, but it was a 5-to-1 swap in which we have given up five top Taliban leaders for one American soldier. One can argue that one American soldier is worth five Taliban leaders because of how valuable they are. But regardless, we're not talking about low level fighters. We're not talking about low level people. These are top leaders. For example, one Taliban one prisoner that was released was a senior Taliban official who had direct ties with Osama bin Laden, as well as Mullah Omar, who was the founder of the Taliban. Um, Another was the chief of security, a regional chief of security for the Taliban. Another one was a deputy minister of intelligence, Abdul Haq Wasik, who was he was involved in intelligence for some time. These are three of the five people that I mentioned that are top tier guys, people that the United States has spent considerable time and resources to capture, and no doubt the time. If that's the case, then surely I am convinced that it not only sets a deadly precedent, but also it shows that in order to preserve the leadership of an opposing group, that it is essential to kidnap Americans in an effort to release top tier officials. And to me, that seems to be the goal that a lot of these people are going after realistically. Not release every prisoner in Guantanamo Bay or whatever prison that's overseas or in the United States. It is release specifically these people who have proven themselves capable leaders of our organization, and in exchange we will give back to you your hostage, your prisoner, your American.
yes, I agree. We go now to a new type of kind of negotiations. And again, is how future administrations, even here, they will deal. But that gives a very bad precedent
The
how to
uh,
do that kind of negotiations.
the the Republicans have already criticized this move and said that it was illegal. That Congress should have been given at least 30 days notice of a possible prisoner exchange, and apparently Congress did not receive that notice. And the House, in particular, has been a very vocal critic of this deal since Saturday, since word first got out. Do you think that as of right now, it is smart for the Republicans to criticize this deal 2 days after the prison swap, and while Bowe Bergdahl is recuperating in Germany?
Well, the thing is how the American media will spin that kind of criticism. The main thing it was that they needed to be formed. We see that President Obama doesn't like to talk to Congress so often, and I think that was a bad decision. But that kind of criticism can go either way. In addition, American people, I don't know if they're so much interested, they're interested about to see an American coming back, but they're interested too much about foreign policy right now. We give the picture that we are very tired with these long wars. We don't want to get involved in new wars, or as they call it, unnecessary wars. And I see even right now in the midterm elections that we have, that politicians, even from the Republican Party, they try to stay away from that kind of criticism and get involved.
We have
Please.
to we have to remember that the midterm elections are this year. So both the Democrats and Republicans have to walk a very fine line, especially when it comes to this particular scenario, because this can go bad very quickly. And I can see it go bad very quickly for someone who is looking to run for office or run for re-election that is criticizing this deal. Now, it's one thing to say that this prisoner swap is was illegal because President Obama did not notify Congress about this deal a month in advance. But to be consistent on it, to really hammer that point, I think personally would be a detriment to the Republicans specifically, who have been the most vocal about this. And I think one has to be very careful in how they criticize this exchange, because one, midterm elections are coming up very, very soon this year, and two, the media, as you have mentioned. The media, they're going to sensationalize this as best as they can, whether it's liberal media or conservative media. They're going to take it and milk it for whatever it's worth and for everything it is worth. And I think we've entered a period of time where we're not so much focused on Bowe Bergdahl and his reintegration into American society, as well as learning of his experiences while he spent 5 years as a prisoner for the Taliban, but how the media is running the story.
Yes, I agree, and I hope that the intelligence that will debrief him. Now, if he has collaborated with them, I don't think so they will give any information. Interesting enough, they said that he needs to be relearn how to speak English. And I don't know, I found that even so strange, because when you know your native language, you never forget it. But I
Well,
mean,
it's very interesting because not much information about his experiences have come to light right now, but over the period of 5 years, we've got bits and pieces. We've gotten only what the Taliban has been able to publish, but I distinctly remember a couple of years ago, it might have been less than that, that there was an escape attempt. Bowe Bergdahl actually tried to escape from his captors and did at one point, but he was tracked down. So when I first heard that story, I thought to myself, maybe he was really dedicated and actually trying to find a way to escape, but at the same time made it to where he tried to appease his captors, almost like taking on a form of Stockholm syndrome. Um, he I heard that too. He lost his ability to speak English, or which I don't know. Maybe he did for whatever reason. But I really don't know what went through his head.
no,
One article that I read yesterday said that he had taught his captors to play badminton. He had celebrated Christmas with his captors, celebrated Christmas, celebrated Easter. He had a fondness for I think it was green tea or some form of tea. Uh, he helped prepare the meals while he was in captivity. I don't know if this is a sign of him being flipped. I don't know if this is a sign of him being kind of persuaded over to their side, or it's a form of Stockholm syndrome where he identifies with the captors, perhaps out of need. need to survive, or maybe it was a ruse. Now, of course, the court of internet opinion indicates today, at least, that uh, he probably flipped. That he probably sided with the Taliban, sided with the Islamist movements in Afghanistan and Pakistan, which is where he was being held, apparently. And and so to a lot of these people, they see him as a traitor. And I, when I when I first heard that Bowe Bergdahl was released, I thought that there was going to be kind of jubilation about the fact that we have an American soldier that was held for 5 years in Afghanistan, well, really Pakistan, and he's finally released. No, a lot of it was met with criticism. A lot of it, especially from veterans and soldiers who are there now, said that he should be tried for treason. So no one really knows, and that's because they consider him AWOL. They considered him as someone who just simply walked off the base and cost the lives of several service members who went out and looked for them, which I can understand. But we really don't know what's in his mind yet. We don't know what his thought processes are, what his ideologies are, and I think it's going to take some time before we really find out. We're just waiting.
Yes, I agree. We don't know. And even now they were saying one of the retired Navy SEALs, they said even when the first time they found out that he went out of his space, they tried to save him, and it was very difficult. But he said that even he didn't do any, he didn't leave any traces or how to indicate that he was kidnapped or something like that. I don't know. They tried to find the traces. I mean, he indicated that, but we'll see. Obviously, the intelligence, the defense intelligence or the CIA needs to debrief him, and obviously they have psychiatrists that they can understand what is in his mind. And that will take time.
What do you think is going to happen? What do you think? What do you think is going to happen when Bowe Bergdahl comes back to the United States?
I think the media that is for the president will be ecstatic. The media that is not with the president or the administration, they will be more skeptical, and there you go to see how severe will be the skepticism.
But what do you think
But
about him as a person?
I don't know if his family will allow him to be, in order to understand what will happen to him, he needs to go on public TV and start speaking. I don't know when we'll start that, or even if his family will allow that to happen, or even the government for a while. First of all, he needs to be debriefed. I don't think so will be visible. We'll see. And if he speaks, we can understand what he was thinking. But I think for a while, he will be isolated and in order to be debriefed and see the state of the mind.
Do
And
you think that he should? Do you think that he should be court-martialed for, assuming that this is true, that he should be court-martialed for walking off the base?
well, it's during war times. I know that the military law is very severe. They have court-martial other people. I believe so. I mean, if he has break the law, if he has broken the law, I mean the military law, I mean if he did it willingly, I mean in the army, if somebody does something like that, lives can be on stake. I mean that I never been on. I mean I have studied at various former army, navy, and air force people, but I mean I learned that in the military you have strict rules because lives are dependent.
Right.
And that is the case. Now, how far they will go, I don't know. I mean, it's again how will what the reports will show. Now, of course, that is the other thing that will happen because people they don't trust the government. They will say, how transparent they will be to see what the reports will say. Now we go to a different kind. I mean, you will be a debate and counter debate and so on and so forth. And the main thing for me is, yes, I'm happy. I don't want to see American soldiers suffering or torture or any American citizen, but the way that we did leaves a bad taste. and also a bad president. A president that how now we deal with terrorists and what kind of swaps we do. I mean, it's not the Cold War that we did that kind of stuff. We had a spy, we give you a spy, we'll get back our spy. Now it's a different way. And that gives, and now that war of terror, we like it or we don't like it, will be a protracted one. And we need to be ready. That asymmetrical warfare. And we need to educate even our public. I know it's politics, but we need to go above politics if we want to be prosperous and to have a strong American leadership. And we give a bad president.
You know, I remember what I remember when this after Sergeant Bergdahl was released. One person that I thought of was John McCain. John
Yes.
McCain spent 5.5 years as a POW in North Vietnam. And if I recall, he spent that time at the Hanoi Hilton. He was a jet pilot who crashed his plane. He ejected. He broke his arms and a leg, and was captured by the communists. And he spent over 5 years as a POW, and was eventually released. But he came back to the United States, and he was determined to continue in his career. In fact, he eventually became a very successful politician. Now, you may not agree with his politics, you may not agree with his leadership skills, but there is no denying that for someone of that spent that amount of time in a POW camp, who by the way was beaten relentlessly for weeks and weeks
Yeah.
and weeks and weeks and months on end, it showed the resilience that McCain had after coming to the United States. He could have easily been someone that just completely hit rock bottom, fell in the gutter, and essentially, became either an anti-war activist, or he became a homeless veteran who lived out in the streets and grew out a beard in his hair and started drinking, which was an unfortunate reality for a lot of Vietnam veterans who came back to the United States psychologically scarred. McCain did not do that, and for someone in his situation to be held for that long was personally I think is impressive.
Yes, it is, and I remember that even they tried to do some deal with the American government because his father was a U.S. admiral, U.S. Navy admiral, and they never went through. I mean, to release him and create a different kind. I mean, in the United States to not to bomb certain areas or something like that, and never happened. And also, as far as I remember, you had also other BOWs that they stayed 5 and 6 years, and they never came out not knowing English. I mean, and even sometimes they use the language to indicate during the Cold War, we said that the English language was the language of freedom. And that is also, that kind of how now we have a POW that maybe he doesn't know how to speak English. I know for my experience, of course, I never been a POW, but I came from Greece. Well, I never forgot my native language. Now I have two native languages, and even if you isolate me, still I will speak it.
It's probably indicative of a brainwashing process that for lack of a better term, that Bergdahl underwent. Uh, the I think it's one of two things. Well, really, I think it's a combination of two things. One is if it's true, which more likely it is. But who knows? If it's true that Bergdahl had resented American involvement in Afghanistan or elsewhere, if he had resented American foreign policy during times of war, resented his involvement in the military, then he's already predisposed to an anti-American ideology. Similarly, as part of number two, that is reinforced through his captors. His captors may have picked up on uh, this attitude and reinforced it uh, through their own way, in whatever way that is. And it's interesting enough. If this is true, I think they did it through kindness. Now I know that sounds weird, but bear
Yeah, I
with me on
agree.
this one.
Mhm.
Over the last several years, Al Qaeda, the Taliban, other similar groups have been trying to rebrand themselves as a nicer entity, as kind of like this smiley face organization that is devoted to humanitarian efforts under the Islamic cause. It's very interesting situation they find themselves in because they realize that through sheer force alone, they're not able to recruit as many people as they once were, or they're not able to recruit as many people as they had anticipated. In fact, the more countries and the more targets that they bomb and the more people that they kill, all of a sudden they found themselves in a predicament. They realized that people were not going to support them. So now they had taken it upon themselves to rebrand themselves and put on a nicer face. I personally don't see how you can put on a nicer face to a terrorist group like Al Qaeda, but uh, I mean, I'm sure that it's possible. Uh, in this way, I think that that's kind of what they did with Bergdahl. If they had tried to turn him, they tried to do it not with force, although they probably did threaten to kill him if he did try to escape, uh, or if he tried anything foolish, so to speak. Um, but I think that they were in an effort to kind of persuade him that they're not so bad guys. They basically integrated him into their lifestyle, which which is what the article I read yesterday. I think it was I don't remember the source. I think it was a Washington Post or something. That that said that he taught them badminton. He cooked for them. He enjoyed their tea. He celebrated holidays with them. So it's that kind of integration that possibly persuaded him to adopt more of their culture and maybe even their ideas. John McCain, going back to John McCain, he never did that.
No, he
he
never.
he was he was steadfast in his commitment into American involvement in Vietnam and as well as to his into his own personal involvement. He remained steadfast even after the countless beatings that he received. Now we don't know if Bergdahl was beaten, but we do know that the Vietnamese did not play nice,
No.
especially with John
Okay.
McCain.
Yeah.
The Taliban, maybe they did. It's kind of like the saying, an old saying that you attract more bees with honey than with vinegar.
Yeah, exactly.
As cliche as that sounds, I think that that may apply in this case. But this is a guess. We simply do not know, and we won't know until Bergdahl himself speaks.
Exactly. And the other thing that raises a question is maybe the Taliban, they know the weakest links among the American armed forces. I don't know if he was targeted before, how he escaped, if he escaped, not escaped, if he left willingly, walk out with civilian clothes. But the other thing that we need to question, maybe the Taliban, they have opportunities or capabilities to know that maybe some US soldiers considered to be the weakest links. They're not so comfortable being in Afghanistan fighting, so on and so forth. Because I know from sources that even the Taliban's now they create statistics how success there are certain strategies, bombings, other terrorist activities. The same way that we study that kind of research, they have their own people that they study the same results, how they can be more successful, how they can change certain things. And I remember that one, I don't remember his name, but one US captain said that we killed the stupid terrorists. Now we have to face the intelligent ones. That means also terrorists, they have capabilities about spying, about identifying weakest links among allied forces. I mean, also this they needs to be looked by the intelligence.
I agree. You notice how the suicide bombers are often the ones being told that it's great to be a suicide bomber by those who are not suicide bombers. Um, if you think about it, they're the ones who are dictating who should blow themselves up. You have to. I'm surprised they don't ask them. Well, how come you don't have a bomb strapped to your chest if you don't want to go to paradise after you die?
Yeah,
Um, well, they're the smart ones. they're, they're
yeah,
the ones. They're the ones who realize that this whole thing's a ruse. That all they have to do is take an illiterate person off the street and
yeah,
convince that person that it is best to blow yourselves up and reach paradise than anything else. Meanwhile, that guy who's dictating that to that person, the potential suicide bomber, is out behind the lines coordinating other attacks against the United States or against other countries. So I mean, we spend a lot of our time trying to stop these suicide bombers, but at the same time, we're spending a good deal of time trying to stop these people who are dictating these orders. So it's a game that we've been playing on both sides here because it's a very time consuming and resource draining process that relies a lot on human intelligence and signal intelligence and image intelligence and all sorts of intelligence programs that we have out there. But when it comes to tracking down a prisoner of war, we can toss anything that we can at the situation, and nothing will come up. We tried looking for this guy for, I think, was it 3 weeks at least, and we couldn't find him. And the consequences of that search led to several American deaths, a very unfortunate circumstance. But that alone has caused a lot of resentment among the military brass, the rank and file, saying that Bergdahl is no hero. Bergdahl is a traitor and should be tried for treason, for going AWOL, and should serve his time at Fort Leavenworth prison.
Yes, I mean, and that will be an interesting. We'll see how long we'll be in isolation to examine and question on all these issues regarding the human bombs, the suicide that they want to commit suicide by exploding. One time I was talking with an Israeli former military, and he told me that they train them how to recognize to do wide damage. For example, one time in Israel, it was a suicide bomber to go and explode himself inside a mall. But while he was walking, he saw that if he exploded himself at the crossroads, will create a better damage, and he did that. That again, they call it more as an intelligent bomb. That means he can think. And that is, as you said, is very difficult. We need to have the best people to do that kind of analysis. In addition to any democracies, you have also partisan politics get involved. But at least we need to have the best people to be determined to find that kind of dark secrets, if you want to call it, and to analyze former hostages or BMW, so on and so forth. In addition, I think, and many times we have debated that, even as we recruit soldiers, maybe we need to look different capabilities now to be a U.S. soldier, or an airman, or a seaman, or a marine.
Well, it's interesting you bring it up. Since the Iraq War came to an end, the Department of Defense have cut down considerably on military personnel. We're kicking people out.
Yeah.
A friend of mine who he had got out of the army, I was talking to him, and we had served together in the same unit when I was in. He was telling me that a lot of people are being discharged, and for a variety of reasons. It could be one of the smallest infractions, and they get kicked out, and that's part of the DoD cutting back on the military. But while the Iraq and Afghanistan war was flaring up in the mid 2000s, we pretty much took whoever we can get.
Yes.
And so we that allowed various types of people into the service, some good, some bad, but it really caused a divide. It's kind of similar to what happened in Vietnam with the draft, and you brought all sorts of unsavory characters in, people with criminal records, whatnot. Here, it could be people with different ideas, different perceptions on American involvement in war. And that could be a hindrance to a lot of soldiers who are fighting on the front lines, because that person may just simply toss their weapon and throw their hands up and say I quit, or I'm going to the other side. And that possibly could have been, I'm not saying it is, but it possibly could have been what Bergdahl essentially did, and that led to his capture. Either way, I'm glad that he was released. I'm glad that he's back in Germany. I'm glad that eventually he is going to come back to the United States. I know that for 5 years, it's always been in the back of my mind what happened to him, and I, as a veteran myself, I could not imagine being put in his situation. Um, I just could not imagine the ordeal that he went through, assuming that it was very rough. Even if it wasn't rough, the fact that he was away from his family for 5 years, stuck in a war-torn country, a very deteriorating country, is just amazing, and not in a good sense. Just amazing the fact that anything could have happened. He could have been killed at any time. He could have easily been Nick Berg, or the countless other people that was beheaded and their deaths put online. Who knows? But I
Yeah, but
also, but a part of me also sympathized with the veterans and the soldiers and everyone else who do not view Bergdahl favorably. I can understand the resentment that that they have against Bergdahl because of the time and effort wasted and the lives lost for trying to find someone who they felt defected. And it's a tricky situation, but at the end of the day, where my where my cards are laid is I'm glad that Bergdahl is home, and whatever happens at this point remains to be seen. And I look forward to hearing what Bergdahl says. If it turns out that he holds a very anti-American view on our foreign policy, if he turns to basically the antithesis of John McCain, well, we have to revisit that one and analyze it for what that is worth and how that plays into the types of people that we have in the service and uh, what kind of people we have in society in general. But we'll see what happens.
I agree. I agree with you totally.
Well, this concludes our program. I thank everyone who listened, and I appreciate being involved in this podcast. Join us next time where we will be talking about Edward Snowden. Vassilios, thank you for taking the time and talking.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Have a good day, everyone.
Thank you.